Hi, it's Dwyer. DwyerBoxingNews.com, GamblersAdvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. The purpose of this video is to highlight one of the better articles I've read on boxing in several weeks. It's right now on BoxingScene.com, and scene spelled SCENE.com, right? It's on the Compubox plus minus list. What they've done is they have gone through more than 4,800 fights. They have looked at the elite fighters, and they have come up with a list that lists the top fighters in terms of overall connect percentage minus an opponent's connect percentage to give each fighter a plus or minus rating. Now this is very important because fighters with great accuracy, right, efficient fighters, highly skilled fighters who land what they throw will have high connect rates. Fighters with great defense who make you miss, who block what you're throwing at them, will have low opponent connect rates. So the gap between the fighter's connect rate, which measures accuracy, and his opponent's connect rate should give you some idea on the overall brilliance or lack of brilliance of a fighter. Now let me just say, online, several people have many opinions. I'm not here to call anyone out. I've watched some videos where people say, hey, Floyd Mayweather has not been on the top of his game for years. He doesn't even belong in the conversation right now among the top pound for pound fighters in the sport, right? I get emails telling me that I overvalue Floyd Mayweather and that he shouldn't be number one on my Dwyer Top 10 Boxing.blogspot.com. But let's throw opinions out the window right now. Let's talk about the Compubox data, right? This is an opinion. I guess some could argue it's an opinion on what punch lands, but understand, this is over several fights. I'm just going to read the list to you in order. And I believe as you hear a fighter's name, and as you hear the plus minus rating, that'll give you an idea on whether the fighter is overhyped or underhyped. Okay? What we'll do is we'll actually start from the bottom of the list. Number 10. He's Manny Pacquiao. He lands 34% of his punches. His opponents land 25%. His plus minus rating is plus 9. Next, Wladimir Klitschko. I'll just read his plus minus rating. It's plus 9. Next, Camita Moreno. And let me just point out, I expected Moreno to beat Abner Maris, who I view as limited. I view Maris as more of a volume puncher than a technician in the ring. And Maris was able to walk through Camita Moreno. Right? I'll concede Maris won the fight. I need to look at the entire fight, not the little snippets I've seen, before I make a post-fight video on that fight. But let me just say, make no mistake, Camita Moreno is a dominant defensive fighter. Of all the fighters on this list, only one guy has opponents connecting at a lower rate than Camita Moreno. Now, Moreno was fighting outside of his weight. He's going to go back to his weight, even though he lost. You need to look at Camita Moreno as a live underdog, regardless of who he fights next, because of his skills. he's next on the list at +9 on the plus-minus rating. In other words, he lands 9% more of his punches than his opponents land on him. Next up, Wladimir Klitschko. Let me just say, Klitschko is at +9 as well. I've said earlier, Wladimir Klitschko right now, in my opinion, is in his prime. Next up is a fighter who I believe is underrated. In fact, his picture has been on my top 10 website for quite some time. I believe he beats guys like Juan Manuel Marquez. In fact, I believe he would handle Marquez in a way Manny Pacquiao hasn't approached yet. Technician Robert Guerrero. He's at a +11. Now this next guy, I question his technical brilliance. I believe his defense is really more of his legs. I don't consider him to be a great defensive fighter. But the numbers do. So I'm going to read the numbers. Next up, at a +12 is Yorkis Gamboa. Right? Now for the final four, I'm actually going to list their connect percentage, their opponent's connect percentage, as well as the plus-minus. Right? These are the final four. These are the top four on Compubox's plus-minus list. And the article, again, is at boxingscene.com. They deserve all the credit that they get. At number 4 is Erislandy Lara. Lara, and keep in mind, I predicted that Lara would lose to Vanis Martirosyan. That fight was a technical draw, right? I have problems with Lara. But Lara connects on 34% of his punches. His opponents land only 20%. That's a gap of 14%, right? Let's give him credit on that. Number 3, the guy who I have is number 3 on my pound-for-pound list. He is the guy who beat Carl Froch, the guy who beat Miguel Kessler. It is Andre Ward. Now, he connects on 38% of his punches. His opponents land 24% of their punches, right? The gap for Ward is 14. Now we get to the top 2. Right? This guy, in my opinion, forget the percentages, right? Because boxing's rock, paper, scissors, right? A guy who has a big punch can offset many of your punches, right? Punchers can be in fights where they're outgunned. They only have to land once. This guy has one punch knockout power. And incredibly, the guy also has very high accuracy. Number 2 on this list is Saul Alvarez. Canelo. He lands 42% of his punches. Now let's put that in perspective. Yorkis Gamboa is on this list. Yorkis Gamboa is number 5. He lands 32% of his punches. Right? Camita Moreno lands 28% of his punches. He's on this list. Saul Alvarez is a power puncher, landing 42% of his punches. He gets hit 26% of the time. His margin, and I believe these are the last 5 fights for these guys. In other words, these are their current fights. His margin is a +16. Now let's talk about number 1. Right? Whether you love him, whether you hate him, whether you think he's in his prime, which I don't, whether you believe he's a little bit past his prime, just understand that number 1 on this list stands alone. His plus-minus rating is +25. To put it in perspective, the next closest guy is 9 below him. It's not close. He's the only guy over 20 on this list in plus-minus, and he's 5 over 20. This is where the guy is now. This is analyzing his current fights. And that's number 1. He has been number 1 since the day my Dwyer Top 10 Boxing.blogspot.com page has gone up. That's Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather lands 42% 22% of his punches, right? 4 more than the great Andre Ward. Ward is a great fighter. But while Ward gets hit with 24% of his opponent's punches, Mayweather somehow only gets hit with 17% of his opponent's punches. To put that in perspective, on this list, right, Camita Moreno is the only other guy below 20%. Right? Some of the guys on this list, Manny Pacquiao, 25%. Saul Alvarez, 26%. Get hit a third more than Floyd Mayweather gets hit. And if you think in terms of fight style, while Yorkis Gamboa moves all around the ring, Mayweather will sometimes set up camp with his back touching the ropes, and he's still not getting hit. With all due respect to the people online who say Mayweather's not a pound-for-pound fighter, let me just challenge them to explain these numbers. Let me also point out, too, that some of these guys arguably aren't fighting the level of competition that Floyd Mayweather is fighting. Now, I'll concede that Andre Ward fights top-shelf competition. Right? Andre Ward has fought Sakio Bika. He's fought Arthur Abraham. He's fought Mikhail Kessler. He's fought Carl Froch. Okay, great. He's fought Alan Green. Okay, great. Andre Ward fights top-shelf competition. But let me just say, of all the guys on this list, I would argue that very few fight the level of competition that Floyd Mayweather does. Manny Pacquiao, okay, I'll roll with the program. Pacquiao did fight Timothy Bradley in his last fight. He has been fighting one Manuel Marquez. He did fight Antonio Margarito. Manny Pacquiao fights world-class competition. But understand, Floyd Mayweather has been fighting like Pacquiao, Shane Mosley. He's also fought, many other elite names. Victor Ortiz, Miguel Cotto, right? These guys are champions. Understand, too, when Mayweather fought Cotto, Cotto had the belt, right? When Mayweather fought Victor Ortiz, this is before Victor Ortiz loses to Josecito Lopez. This is after Ortiz had beaten Andre Berto. And the thing with Mayweather you need to understand, in my opinion, is that at 35, he is a little past his prime. What's he doing on a list with guys in their prime like Saul Alvarez in his 20s, Andre Ward in his 20s, on down, right? Robert Guerrero, Erislandy Lara. These are guys who are all younger than Floyd Mayweather. In fact, only Wladimir Klitschko, a heavyweight, and different aging rules apply to heavyweights. Only Wladimir Klitschko, who, like Floyd, in my opinion, is one of the dominant fighters of our time. Only Wladimir Klitschko's older than Floyd on this list, right? Maybe, let me back up, maybe Wladimir Klitschko, perhaps. But my point to you is, here is Floyd, a non-heavyweight, in his mid-30s, and no one is within 9 of him on the plus-minus ratio. Let me digress a bit too. There are some other people who will soon qualify for this list, right? Because Compubox, you have to be in enough elite fights where Compubox actually has 5 fights to rate you on to put you on the list. So Adrian Broner and Leo Santa Cruz, right? 2 guys who have been on my top 10 page for a while, right, are soon to be on this list, right? They just need to get one more fight at their usual average. and they'll be able to get on this list. Now let's talk about some other observations quickly, then I'll hop off fast enough. As fast as Manny Pacquiao is, and he's gifted with great feet, make no mistake, he is among the very top in the sport in terms of foot speed when he's on his game. But even with the foot speed, understand that Manny Pacquiao gets hit 25% of the time. To put it in perspective, Saul Alvarez and Wladimir Klitschko only get hit 1% more of the time than Manny Pacquiao. What that should tell you is that even with the foot speed, when you catch up to Manny Pacquiao, you can actually land punches, right? Let me talk about something else too. When you look at Andre Ward's numbers, you really have to say to yourself, just like with Mayweather, how is this guy fighting the elites, right? His last fight was against Chad Dawson, right? He's run through his division. Now he's taking out light heavies. I disagree with Carl Froch when Carl Froch says that Ward has to fight him because Ward has nobody else to fight. What about Nathan Cleverly? What about Beibut Shubinov? I mean, I believe Ward has pretty much established who's the top dog at super middle, right? Don't you think Andre Ward has a lot of guys to fight in the fragmented light heavyweight division? Let me also tell you too that if he fought Nathan Cleverly, I'd take Andre Ward in that fight. You know, well, my point to you is simply this. Isn't it simply astonishing that a guy could fight the elite fighters that Andre Ward has fought, right? Froch and Chad Dawson? You got to be kidding me. And yet still have one of the elite ratings, plus minus ratings, in the entire sport. In fact, if you were to do what economists do, if you were to somehow find a way to equalize the level of opposition, Andre Ward would fly almost off the page, right? And so this is really a must-read as we talk about fighters with great defense, as we talk about guys who are accurate punchers. Just consider whatever statistical proof is out there. I offer you this article. It's entitled Compubox Plus/Minus List, Vlad, Moreno, Broner, Cruz. That has been posted today on BoxingScene.com. Let me know your thoughts. Leave your comments for me here online. Let me just say this too. You know, I was wrong on the Camita Moreno versus Abner Maris fight. Styles do make fights. I still consider, maybe because I'm stubborn, Camita Moreno to be a technically more gifted fighter. With regard to Broner against Tony DeMarco, I don't think that fight should be close. I actually believe Adrian Broner is going to show us why he's Adrian Broner and win that fight handily. We'll find out. I'll make a more detailed video if time permits. But just know that I like Broner over Tony DeMarco. I think DeMarco has gotten by on some awfully close fights, right? I saw him fight a guy named Ajaho. You need to look up that fight. I believe Ajaho got hit. He fought illegally, went down, stayed down in a fight, quite frankly, that was too close to call. I saw DeMarco getting spanked by Jorge Linares. Linares, of course, got stopped on cuts in that fight. Of course, when DeMarco stepped up and fought Edwin Valero, it was perhaps Edwin Valero's finest moment, but DeMarco simply couldn't handle the hand speed. Now, Adrian Broner is a maze, right? All I'm saying to you is this. When Adrian Broner wants to let his hands go, when he wants to open up a bit his defensive shell, he has blinding hand speed, right? If, you know, Edwin Valero had too much volume and hand speed for Tony DeMarco, I don't know how DeMarco survives Adrian Broner. I like Broner in that one. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. I hope you look at this article And thanks for watching.